Washington took a pause on Friday to remember Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a trailblazer and an advocate for women's rights who became a liberal icon. As Chief Justice John Roberts said during a ceremony this week in the court's Great Hall, quote, "It has been said that Ruth wanted to be an opera virtuoso, but became a rock star instead." And on Friday, she became the first woman and the first Jewish American to lie in state at the Capitol. But that pause here in Washington will be brief. On Saturday, President Trump will announce his choice to fill the vacant seat on the court. According to the Washington Post, the New York Times, and other news outlets tonight, President Trump has settled on Judge Amy Coney Barrett of Indiana. Barrett is a favorite of conservatives, and her nomination hearings next month would likely become a brutal political battleground, roiling the presidential campaign and all those debates over abortion rights and health care. Senate Republicans are determined to move quickly and hold a final vote on the nomination before the election. What does this mean for the GOP and for Vice President Biden? And what about American democracy? With the Senate and the court now front and center, we've gathered three of the best journalists on those beats. Carl Hulse, Chief Washington Correspondent for the New York Times and author of Confirmation Bias, Inside Washington's War over the Supreme Court from Scalia's death to Justice Kavanaugh. Sungmin Kim, White House reporter for the Washington Post. And Nina Totenberg, Legal Affairs Correspondent for National Public Radio. Nina, I'd like to begin with you. Welcome back to Washington Week. A 6-3 conservative majority is now on the horizon for the nation, for the court. What's the significance of that?
Well, to begin with, this would be a collection, if Judge Barrett is confirmed, of the most conservative judges to sit on the court probably back to the 1930s. And a 6-3 majority means that if any one of them flakes off on a particular issue, it doesn't matter. They've still got 5 votes. So it's a very, I hesitate to say bulletproof, but a very safe majority for a particular ideological stripe of people.
Sungmin, you're on the byline tonight at the Washington Post. What's the rationale inside the White House for Judge Coney Barrett?
Well, she's clearly been the front runner ever since this vacancy, this seat became open last Friday night with Justice Ginsburg's death. She had a series of interviews at the White House earlier this week. Those interviews, according to your sources and mine, went very well. She was very heavily lobbied for in the White House by key White House officials, including White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and Counsel Pat Cipollone, and she was heavily promoted by Senate Republicans. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who will be steering so much of this process on Capitol Hill, was confident with Judge Barrett. She is a known commodity. Not only has she been confirmed, she had become kind of this rising rock star among conservatives because after her brutal confirmation fight for her current circuit court seat. And a lot of Senate Republicans had been privately pushing Judge Barrett for some time. They have seen her as the perfect candidate for the Ruth Bader Ginsburg vacancy, someone who really does excite their base, conservative voters, and they seem to think, they know it's going to be a bruising fight, but this is one nominee that they're happy to put it all on the line for.
Carl, will Leader McConnell be able to get this done by Election Day?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question surrounding all of this. The timeline is pretty tight, and as we've seen in recent Supreme Court confirmations, things bubble up that could push it past the election. But right now they think they can get it done. It's going to be very quick. It's going to feel very quick to people. But in some ways, Bob, to me, this is the culmination of what's been going on in Washington for the last 4 years. The Republicans in the Senate, led by Leader McConnell, along with the Trump administration, have been reshaping the courts. This is the ultimate reshaping of the courts. This is the big prize, and I don't think that they're going to let Democrats stand in the way of getting that.
Nina, Carl just said that things could bubble up. You've covered Supreme Court nomination fights for decades. We saw in the 1980s with Judge Bork, these processes can become quite acrimonious. Should we expect the unexpected here?
You should always expect the possibility of the unexpected. And there was a very interesting a statement issued from the FBI director today saying that we should please remember that the terms of the investigation by the FBI are set by the White House. Now, to me, the translation of that is don't blame us if something comes up we didn't find, because the White House sets the terms for our investigation. So I would look probably to interest groups that oppose Judge Barrett, who will be looking for some information that they don't know, reporters to be investigating her background. But she's a very beloved person in her hometown of where she lives, in South Bend, Indiana, where she was a law professor for 15 years and still teaches at Notre Dame. And she's beloved by a diversity of people for whom she is enormously generous. That does not address the question, of course, of her ideology, which is more than conservative. It is right up there with the man she clerked for, Justice Antonin Scalia, a ferocious opponent of abortion. And Judge Barrett, of course, has also weighed in on Obamacare, saying that she's been very critical of Chief Justice Roberts' opinion when he cast his fifth and deciding vote to uphold Obamacare. And we're going to have, a week after the election, we're going to have arguments in the third challenge to Obamacare.
Sung-Min, following up on Nina's point there, how are Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee going to handle this? Will they focus on abortion rights? Will it be a broader argument against her on health care? What are you learning?
So there are a couple of decisions that Democrats have to make when it comes to their strategy. First of all is a lot of these procedural tactics, strategy decisions. Do you meet with the nominee? Do you even go as far as boycotting the hearing? What do you do to delay it out? And that's a lot of inside baseball talk. But yes, Democrats want to make this about the issues, because you and I all know here that the courts have generally been an issue that has galvanized conservative voters. And now, under the Trump presidency, Democrats and progressive groups have been trying to change that calculus. And there's some polling that shows that the courts may even be, even before Justice Ginsburg's death, that the courts are slowly turning into a more important issue for Democratic voters, which is a fascinating shift. But the Democrats also know that they have to tie this into issues that matter for their base. And we know that healthcare matters so much. It was a key part of their midterm victory in the 2018 midterm elections. So they are going to point out, as Nina said, that this justice is going to hear, if she is confirmed, that she's going to be on the panel of 9 that hears this critical case that will determine the future of the Affordable Care Act. You saw a statement, a pretty strong statement from Senator Dianne Feinstein, the top Democrat on the committee, saying this is the vote that matters to the future of abortion. So that's what you're going to be hearing a lot from Democrats in the coming days. You will hear a lot about process. You will hear, as we have heard, about the hypocrisy issue, considering what Republicans did to Merrick Garland in 2016. But the message is going to be healthcare, 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 and the future of these critical rights that Democrats warn are at stake.